What do you hope the conversation is at CES?
It's a good question. I think it starts really what we're talking about in this business in general. The business is evolving as we speak. And at Turner Broadcasting, we're thinking about reimagining television. You know, television has to be redefined, and has to be redefined in a few different places. Number one is it's not the thing that hangs on your wall anymore. That's number one. Television is really about which device it's on now, where it's being seen, how it's being seen. More people are consuming television content, not on the wall, but on every different device. Television programming is still a very, very popular thing that people watch. The other thing is it's going to have to evolve is the Nielsen metrics. It's an outdated metric system that we've been using really since the 1960s. And television isn't about primetime only. It's about all day parts. And we need to think about not selling this in day parts, but selling it in audience segments. And so I think part of what's going to be talked about at CES is how we move in an advertising business into more of addressable advertising and attribution. Meaning, you know, how do we tell people that things actually worked? How do you know if you watched a Ford commercial, did you go into a Ford dealership? So those are going to be big topics, I think, coming up at CES.
So there's a lot of opportunities for you guys being now part of AT&T and this family of companies. What do you think that will mean in terms of how Turner operates as a premium TV programmer?
Yeah, well, premium content is key. I mean, I don't think anything works without quality premium programming, and Turner's always been focused on making sure that we have the best quality premium program for all of our brands, whether it's animation, whether it's news, whether it's sports or entertainment. So that's a priority. But with AT&T, I think there was some needs and wants on both sides of the equation. On the AT&T side, they were looking for that quality premium programming. I think that's one of the reasons why they purchased us, was we have the Warner Brothers, we have HBO, and we have the Turner portfolio of brands. From Turner's side, what I think is so attractive from an AT&T perspective is the data that they're going to supply, the 170 million different touch points that we have on consumer data and direct-to-consumer information. 25 million from DirecTV, 100 million from their AT&T phones, 7 million from AT&T universe bases. And so that data, coupled with our first-party data and mapping it together, is going to allow us to have better information around a few things. Better understanding of what kind of programming we may want to produce, better understanding of how we market better to consumers, and better understanding for our advertisers to give them more targeted advertising in our portfolio. So that I think is going to be a big part of why AT&T and Time Warner, which is now Warner Media, is going to be very successful in this business.
How do you see things changing in terms of your opportunity to reach consumers through what had been the cable, what are the cable tubes and satellites and other ways? How is that changing and where is that going?
Well, first and foremost, we need to keep the ecosystem that we live in today very healthy. We have a great relationship with our cable operators, with our satellite providers, and with our telco companies, and now the virtual MVPDs. That is a very healthy business, and is going to continue to be a very healthy business in our company. But as a modern media company, as we move into the next generation, we need to also, on top of having that ecosystem being healthy and buying great programming for that, we also need to have a one-on-one relationship with the consumer. We need to understand their viewing habits, understand their likes and dislikes, and then personalize content for them if need be. And so we started off from a Turner perspective before AT&T came involved. We launched Filmstruck, which is now going to be folded into our new direct-to-consumer product that we announced a couple of days ago. Well, John Stankey a few weeks ago announced. We have a Boomerang, a direct-to-consumer kids product, and with the match that recently we just launched and UEFA rights that we have, we launched a direct-to-consumer product for sports called BR Live. These are opportunities for us to have a one-on-one relationship, provides us information, personal information that we can use not just for those particular brands, but also maybe circle back and use it for our existing ecosystem to understand maybe what kind of programming that we may be able to program on that side as well. Collecting all that data is very, very imperative for us. So I think you need both You need a direct-to-consumer strategy, and you also need to make sure that your most healthiest business and the most healthiest opportunity, which is the ecosystem we live in today, stays that way.
And finally, you guys are one of the biggest programmers in live programming around sports, around news.
Yeah.
Live
works.
Live works. Why does live work?
Well, live is really the last destination appointment viewing, right? I mean, you know, I had somebody say this the other day to me, you know, when was the last time you heard somebody say, I have to stay home to watch this program? It's unheard of right now. Live sports, you still stay home to watch. You know, you don't really watch sports the next day, and news is live as well. So those are truly appointment viewing still left in the TV ecosystem. It's not to say that you can't put quality premium program entertainment, it's just watched differently. It's binged differently. It doesn't mean they have to watch it that day, but that doesn't mean it's not a television product. And that's the most important thing I'm trying to emphasize here is that entertainment programming, quality television entertainment programming is watched. It's just watched on different devices and when. It's not watched on your wall sometimes, it's watched on your iPad. It's not watched on Monday night, it's watched on Wednesday night. That's where the metric system, the Nielsen's research has to change and evolve better to understand what's happening in the consumption of content with the consumers.
And finally, we know that you have been innovative in moderating or managing the ad load on certain programming.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit how that's going and why that's important.
So I've been at Turner 31 years, and you know we've evolved a decade after decade of what we had to do to change our structure and our inventory and our brands. One of the things we learned very quickly is we used to think about advertising first, distribution second, and consumer experience third. We've now flipped that over the last couple of years, and consumer experience is number one. If you don't have a great consumer experience, you're not going to have anybody come to your brands. Distribution is second, and advertising is third. Doesn't mean we don't think that's important. It's just you better have a good consumer experience, then your advertising will come. So part of that consumer experience is reducing ad loads, having a better experience for the television perspective. And at True TV, we've reduced almost 50% of all the primetime inventory, half of what it was 3 years ago. All of our TNT programming, our originals, are now produced with limited commercials in them, about 50% less. So we're trying to give the consumer a better experience, which is very, very important. So then going into the advertising side, having more contextually relevant advertising in these less commercial inventory is going to be a better consumer experience also. And also having more targeted ads. So if you're interested, and we know through data that you are traveling overseas, and we start giving you travel content or travel commercials within that environment, that's going to be more relevant to you. You're going to be more engaged, more leaning in. If I'm in a sports perspective, if I put commercials together, and I use Capital One as an example, when you're watching the NCAA tournament and you're seeing a Capital One commercial and it has Charles Barkley in it and Jim Nance and Samuel L. Jackson and Spike Lee, that's quality content, relevant content to what you're actually watching in your viewer experience. So you tend to have that content almost becomes part of the programming. And if you can do that, whether you're doing it in entertainment programming or sports programming or news programming, that's going to give a better viewer experience.